So we have this email that we're going to be looking at today from Tony Cooper to President Judge Nancy Butts. And he is challenging a policy that bans cell phones in courthouses, in MDJ offices. And what's really interesting is he's claiming that this policy might have actually landed him in jail.
Yeah, it really makes you think, how can something that's designed for good, order in the court actually have such a negative impact on somebody's life?
Exactly. So to unpack all of this, we're going to be looking at three main sources today.
Okay.
The first is the actual policy, which is an electronic device policy order from 2018.
Right.
The second is going to be Mr. Cooper's own experience in the courtroom, which he details in his email.
Okay.
And then third, we're going to look at some broader societal implications of these types of bans. All right, so you ready to dive in?
Yeah, let's take a look.
All right. So picture this. August 6th, 2018, Judge Butts signs this administrative order that lays down the law on electronic devices in the courthouse.
And I mean, right off the bat, you can see that they're really trying to cover all their bases.
Yeah.
The definition of electronic device is so broad.
Yeah.
It's cell phones, laptops, tablets,
Wait, so does that mean that my Fitbit is banned?
I mean,
can I not even track my steps while I'm waiting for my case to be called?
I don't know about specifically your Fitbit, but yeah, I mean, they're talking about anything that can transmit or store data.
Wow. Okay.
Pretty much. So both he and his public defender were reprimanded for the disruption.
Yeah.
And that's understandable, but here's the kicker.
Okay.
After that, he was denied the opportunity to present the digital evidence that he brought.
Wait, so because his phone rang, this potentially really important piece of evidence was just excluded from his case.
Exactly. And to top it all off, he actually ends up incarcerated as a result of this case.
So he's saying that this policy that's meant to ensure a fair trial might have actually contributed to an unfair outcome for him.
It does seem that way, yeah.
This is starting to sound like a legal thriller or something.
Right.
Okay.
So he's sitting there during the proceedings, and he notices something that really strikes him as unfair.
Oh, no.
The opposing lawyer, who happens to be from a prominent local law firm, is using his cell phone during the proceedings. And I'm not talking about discreetly checking messages or something.
Oh, no.
No, he's actually using his phone to present information from the internet.
But the policy clearly states that.
I know.
That's not allowed.
Right, but here's the thing. The judge, the same one who reprimanded Mr. Cooper in his previous case, doesn't say a word to this lawyer about using his phone. He says that this inconsistency in enforcement creates a system where some people are at a disadvantage simply because they don't have the resources or, a fancy lawyer representing them.
Okay.
And this is where those additional sources that you mentioned come into play.
Right.
Because they highlight some of the potential negative social impacts that these bans can have, especially when we start talking about equity and access to justice.
Okay, let's dive into that.
Yeah.
What are some of the concerns that these sources raise?
It's almost like we're expecting everyone to operate in this analog world when the reality is just so different.
It reminds me of that saying, justice delayed is justice denied. Could these bans, even if unintentionally, be doing just that?
It's definitely a question worth considering.
Yeah.
It highlights how important it is to think about these potential consequences, especially in a society where technology plays such a huge role. Well, I think that's where public awareness and advocacy come in.
Got it.
Cases like Tony Cooper's really highlight the human impact of these policies.
Yeah.
And they can really spark a conversation about the need for change.
It's a good reminder that behind every policy, there are real people whose lives are being affected.
Exactly.
And it's so important to listen to those voices.
Absolutely.
And consider their experiences when we're shaping these policies.
And by raising awareness about these issues, we can start to build momentum for change and push for solutions that promote both security and fairness.
So it's not just about complaining, it's about actively engaging in the process.
Right, it's about working towards a better system.
And who knows, maybe one day stories like Tony Cooper's will be a thing of the past.
I hope so, because access to justice should never be hindered by something like access to technology.
Well.